Compromise is not weakness. Tonight's discourse is tailored towards the manifestation gurus, the individuals whom their actions are always laddering up to something, such that whenever you deviate from that kind of action, you somehow believe that it cancels out all your efforts. So, for instance, if you adopt the mindset of abundance such that at the refusal of handing out $2, you somehow believe you're a poor person. But if you sit and analyze as a professional, if you have $2 million in your bank account and you refuse to spare some, does that make you a poor person? Exactly. Does it reduce the amount of money in your bank account? Exactly. So it's the wrong understanding of manifestation that causes problem. I recall one time where I would have to borrow money to meet up to someone else's need, as opposed to saying I don't have, to prevent canceling out the state of abundance. And anyone who has gone through the route of manifestation understand this perfectly, that once you're in the state of abundance, you can give out anything, you can spare anything. And please, you might shake your head in disgust, but individuals who had that experience would nod their head in affirmation that once you're in that state, you can give up anything. So compromise is not weakness. And I'm attacking it from the manifestation standpoint, because once you try to be something, you're most likely susceptible to a rigid approach. So, in an attempt to portray this mindset of intelligence or this status that I'm a very smart guy, I submit myself to high end vocabulary at the expense of people's understanding. So, instead of using light words for the sole purpose of comprehension, I suggest high vocabularies. I tweak the content a little bit. That's just rubbish. That's stupid. But once you come to the knowledge of who you are, you can be comfortable to use light words, and it doesn't dilute your confidence. It doesn't dilute the feeling of intelligence. It doesn't take away your personality. In fact, if you have to do something constantly to reinforce a belief, then you're not it. You're just trying to be it. And I use the word constantly, specifically for the lazy peasants in the comment section, people who would jerk off at the knowledge that they don't have to take action. All they need to do is believe. At last, Ifeanyi said, you don't necessarily have to take action to reinforce the belief. No. If you get to a point where you have to constantly take action to reinforce a belief, then you're not it. You're canceling out the whole manifestation process. The ball game of manifestation is to adopt the state, then the actions come naturally. If you become fit, going to the gym is a natural response. I've shared the story of how in my quest or on my quest to become fit, I had littered the house with dumbbells such that before a shower, I go pump it out. Now, I didn't necessarily have to imbibe it in my schedule. I came up with innovative ways to get in those reps. You now see that weight gain is not just reliant on going to the gym or listening to coach. I have devised a system to encourage that outcome. It's the same thing with you. For as long as you are trying to do something, you are trying to take action before you believe, it's only going to delay the process. And the problem with adopting the mentality of the desired outcome is not necessarily for the fear of failure, but the perception from outsiders. For instance, if you say, I'm wealthy while living in a small bedroom, you're going to get mocked. People would laugh at you. People would shit on you. It's not necessarily because of your dream, but it holds a direct reflection on your standards. I've shared this countless times that individuals will try as much as possible to drag you down the second class streets, not necessarily because of the character, but to reinforce their excuse that it was the school they went to, it was their father, their friends. So because they know you come from the same background, pulling you down is your natural response. I've shared countlessly about the subconscious and how it works. Once you sustain a belief, need not be vocalized. All you need to do is believe in that concept. You will always act in ways in accordance to produce the outcome. So once you believe the background is the problem, some externality is the reason for your failure, you would always act in ways in accordance to produce that belief as well as reinforce the excuse, even if it means pulling down another. Take the concept of depression. I would sit as a full grown man and say, depression is not real. Anybody who has depression, it's a temporary state of mind. There are various reasons for depression. It can be as a reason of a loss of a loved one or the loss of something. It can be as a consequence of stagnation. It can be lack of purpose. So there are so many tentacles associated with the octopus depression. And you would sit and the individual would comprehend. But the reason they refuse to understand is because it's your pure excuse. Why are you fat and broke? Society doesn't call you a loser. Society doesn't shit on you when you're broke, when you're poor, when you're fat, uneducated, and unaccomplished. You know what they say? They call you depressed. Yeah, he's depressed. So the reason for your refusal to comprehend, it's not because you don't understand, but it's your shield from the reality of life. So, so conformity is not weakness. Hiking down to have conversation doesn't mean you're not the person you say you are. For instance, if you're trying to be confident, the usual approach would be a stoic engagement, ruffling of your face, putting on leather jacket, always having serious conversation, going on a rant, making little to no time for laughter. If it's you I just described, you're trying to be confident. But the whole purpose of confidence is to be able to believe in yourself well enough such that you can engage in public humiliation and laugh. The highest definition of confidence I have seen was this guy in my college. On this particular day, it was raining heavily. So we rush into one of those outer buildings on campus, as well as with some other guys, and we meet people who are taking shade, waiting for the rain to pass. So 5 minutes into this waiting, a student, you could tell she was from the law department because of her apparel. And this, my friend, signals our attention to that area. Finally, he walks up and he was like, "Hi, what's up? How are you doing? I'm not interested. Leave me alone. Where are you from? I'm not interested. Leave me alone. Where are you from? How are you doing?" And he was trying to make a joke out of the experience. Finally, he retired, came back to our group, and continued the conversation like nothing happened. The reason that story is phenomenal is because it occurred in the presence of a lot of people. And this situation is very unique in the sense that you cannot leave. It's not like those environments where once the rejection happens, you have a place to retire to. No, it's raining outside. You're confined to this spot. You're confined to the ice. Every single person saw what happened. You just got rejected in the presence of 40 something people and you act like nothing happened. You see, humans operate on energy. If you're shy, if the consciousness of the rejection still lingers, the friend group might be sympathetic enough not to highlight, but we know. Conversely, we also know when it doesn't register on your mind, when you can take up the conversation as though nothing happened. That's the highest definition of confidence. To walk into a room and not care the response or how this person sees you, what he thinks, why did I do this? That's the highest definition of confidence. Once you kill the idea of trying to be something, adopt the state. And sometimes there are actions that won't align to the person you are. It doesn't cancel out the state. I've given you this analogy on abundance. Let's repeat it from a different perspective. As a rich man, is it every single person who DMs for help that you respond to? Exactly. So on your ascent to become this individual, is it every help you respond to? Exactly. So by that logic, once you take that action, it doesn't cancel out what you've been trying to do. In fact, going against your will and helping people or going into debt, like I used to do, for the sole purpose of reinforcing this belief, does the opposite. It reinforces lack. And for a long time, when the belief doesn't materialize, you fall back into despondency. It cancels out. But once you are the person, once you believe this is for you, this is who you are, then there's nothing to be desired. And this is the balance. Let me balance it out quickly. You need to set boundaries. There are times where compromises should not be made. This philosophy, taken to an extreme, would be your unbecoming. all it reduces it all it reduces you to is a mirror reflecting whoever is before. So for the sole purpose of hiking down and trying not to sound too intelligent, it regress to conformity. For the sole purpose of creating this environment where every single person is comfortable, it spirals you to conformity, unimaginable. That's not where you want to be. That's not who you are. My apologies. I've said it on previous videos. There are times I used to record, and after ranting and I shout and give analogies, after the whole discourse, I get up only to discover the microphone wasn't turned off. So it's more like muscle memory once the conversation begins to get interesting to check. Whilst my finances increase, I'll get to a point where some peasant camera guy would ensure all of this is functioning. So, yeah, I hope you understood this philosophy perfectly. And as always, my friends, a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.